people. There's no serious professionals that get into hospitality intentionally, at least that I've met.
Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, André Natera. Today, my guest is Chef Chad Welch, executive chef with Horse Soldier Bourbon, who's worked alongside the Jacques Pépin Foundation. We're going to get into his storied career, from scaling Navy recipes for 5,000 troops to cutting Cornish game hens with a bandsaw on his first day ever cooking. We're going to talk about the world of pre-Google chef learning and landing with a bourbon brand that puts World Trade Center steel in every bottle. Stay tuned. I know you got started cooking on cruise ships, or not cruise ships, in the Navy.
Yeah.
In the Navy.
Yeah.
I've never talked to anyone that has expressed what it's really like to be in the military cooking, specifically in the ocean.
Yeah.
I had a friend that he was cooking on a boat recently, and he's saying it was and there was a storm. He's saying the fucking pots are sliding down.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah. It's nuts. For us, an aircraft carrier doesn't move very much. You rarely see it moving. But it's very similar to taking a flight, just a commercial flight, like when I flew here or whatever. Everything has to be properly stowed and tied down and ready to encounter rough weather, right? But on an aircraft carrier, you never do that because it never moves. So the only time that anything like that's ever happened to us, we were coming back in from a Mediterranean cruise into Virginia, and there was this huge storm in the Atlantic, and it rocked our ship. And I'm from California, and it felt like an earthquake. But all of the baker's racks and roasting pans and everything just came crashing down, because we'd never had anything stowed because it never moved. And then the one time that it happened, I almost required stitches.
Yeah,
from roasting pans just falling off top of speed racks. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, unlike, other than a pizza place in my hometown, my first day in the professional kitchen was on an aircraft carrier on the USS America.
Day zero.
Day zero. Yeah. So other than, I went to Navy Culinary School in San Diego,
okay.
which was basic knife skills and safety sanitation. And then this was in 1992. So tons of longhand recipe conversion. So all the armed forces recipe cards, they're universal throughout the entire military, and they're all based on 100. And so you either have to scale up or scale down, depending on how many people you're cooking for. And the aircraft carrier has 5,000. So we would always have to scale up. So doing the math on scaling, I don't even remember how to do it, but scaling 1 tablespoon for 100 people up to 5,000 portions was crazy. And going up and down, it was nuts. But on my first day on the ship, show up completely green like you would in any other kitchen, but all of your military bearings, and my uniform was all white and perfect and shoes polished and everything. I was clearly the new guy. And we were going to sea. My first day on my ship was our first day at sea. And you meet up in the morning and they assign everybody a station based on what the menu is for that day, right? It's all right, I don't know, we're doing meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and fried fish. So Andre, you're on ovens. Chad, you're on fryer. You're on whatever. And then you just go sort the recipe out to go over there. But since I was the new guy, they put me in veg prep. They were like, you just go into that veg prep room. And that was actually very nice duty because it's air conditioned and all you're doing is peeling stuff and chopping stuff and whatever. But that day we had Cornish game hen on the menu. And I think they were just trying to make everybody feel good for it being our first day at sea, right? And in order to do the Cornish game hen for 5,000 people, my job that day, on my first day at sea, my first day in a professional kitchen, was to cut the Cornish game hens in half on a bandsaw. And I'd never worked with a bandsaw, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was wild. And you're at sea. good news is I couldn't feel the ship moving at all. But, you know, and I was really scared. I still don't mess with bandsaws. I didn't cut myself, thank God. But it's treacherous, you know, like doing these frozen ice cubes, basically. And we cut them while they were still shrink wrapped with the guts inside. And you treated them kind of like lemons, right? You cut them in half, shake the insides out, and then squeeze the plastic off and throw them on the Lexan on either side and just keep it moving. So I asked, because you start work at like 4:00 in the morning because you got to start for breakfast. And I asked, I was like, hey, I thought we were going to sea today. And they're like, oh no, we're at sea. And I was like, no way. So they took me up to the hangar bay, and I could see the waves coming up over the side of the ship. And then now all of a sudden, now I can feel the ship moving. And I had to go back downstairs and finish doing those Cornish game hens while it's defrosting, and then the little stuff is accumulating at the top of the bandsaw and slowly dripping down as I can just slowly feel the boat rock. That was the closest I ever came to getting sick in my whole time in the military, but I never did.
How long were you on the ship?
I was on the ship for 2 years.
Yeah. Cooking the entire time?
Cooking the entire time. And, you know, like the funny thing, I think you and I were talking about it before, is about how like kind of everybody's origin story is pretty much the same. And I hate reading people's resumes or their bios, talking about how they grew up their mother's apron strings and whatever in the kitchen. Because like, you know, you said, we all did. Everybody did that. Yeah. Mine is a little bit different because like I never wanted to be a cook. Like I tried to join the Navy as an electrician, and I was working at like a quick serve place being a busser. And it ended up turning into an accidental career in the Navy. And then I got a job at a restaurant the first day I got out. And so it seems like if you follow my trajectory and the kind of initially unconventional cooking jobs and hospitality jobs, they were all kind of against my will.
So you had no desire to be a chef. You're just going into the Navy.
Yeah.
They're just kind of throwing you in.
My mom started charging me rent, and it was time to go.
Kitchens are brutal right now. Everyone knows it. Fewer people on the line, margins tighter than ever, and somehow the expectations keep going up. There's just no room to miss anymore. I was talking to a chef recently who said the biggest stress wasn't the volume, it was the mental load. Babysitting food, timing everything perfectly, trying to be everywhere at once. And that's where equipment matters more than people want to admit. Rationals technology comes up a lot in those conversations. The iCombi Pro, the iVario Pro, overnight roasts that don't need to be checked, custom programs for all your recipes, consistency without hovering, completely automated cleaning, monitoring everything from your phone, the list goes on. And what really buys you the headspace? Less standing over pans and more time to lead the kitchen instead of constantly putting out tiny fires. When you're down to cook, when the prep list is rough, when the production ramps up, think rational. So when you got out, what is your first cooking job right out of the Navy?
So I got out of the military on August 23rd, 1994. And they were opening a new, but you get out, it's called terminal leave. You get out 2 weeks early just because I had basically PTO saved up, right? So I get out 2 weeks early. Took 2 weeks to kind of figure out where I was going to sleep. And then on August 23rd, 1994, I got a job at a restaurant in Northern California where I'm from, and it's called the Hop Yard. And I started working there that day, and it was all just kind of quick serve pub type food that ended up being really good. Like
what was pub type food in 94?
It was chicken wings, grilled chicken sandwiches of all kinds of different varieties, burgers of all kinds of different varieties, but like everything, you know, Caesar salads, we punched our own French fries, blanched them, did all that stuff. And then, you know, in retrospect, looking back at it, everything was like super proper. Like it was, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was like, now that I do, looking back on it, like we didn't need to be doing everything that good. But like during that time was also the time that, because we were buying some stuff from Cisco, and the first time that I remember, like I was like the kitchen manager. First time I remember my Cisco rep bringing me kind of convenience appetizers, like jalapeno poppers or like pre-done mozzarella sticks. You know,
The
like
fucking best.
yeah. I was just like, this is crazy. Like people will do this for you. Like, and then little did I know that was kind of the end of mom and pop restaurants.
The fucking sampler platter, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
jalapenos
totally.
and the mozzarella sticks and
Yeah.
something else, right?
Yeah, but everything we did, we were doing it all from scratch. Potato skins and like, just for example, like we had baked potatoes on our menu.
Yeah.
And so when the baked potatoes, and they were stuffed with all kinds of different stuff, and when the baked potatoes were turned, like after 2 days or whatever, 3 days, that you couldn't serve them as a baked potato, we would take the insides out, make potato skins out of the leftovers, and then we made potato chowder out of the insides. So like, I can't take credit for putting that menu together initially, but the guy that did had all of like real restaurant flow sort of stuff, even though we were just like an open bar and grill place, you know. Like we made all of our dressings from scratch, and like mayonnaises and everything, and it was like good.
Well, it's so funny because back then, some of those things, when you're seeing them for the first time, like you said, the mozzarella sticks, you don't know. You go to a restaurant, you're a young kid, like how do they make mozzarella sticks? Right? You're fascinated. And then you find out, like, oh my God, there's a convenience product. Where it's like brilliant. I would love to do a restaurant today that serves that kind of food. Like really nice, like a nicer from scratch version, not frozen mozzarella sticks, but like homemade mozzarella sticks, pigs in a blanket, devils on horseback, whatever.
All real comfort food stuff. Like I write concept menus all the time, just like for fun for myself. And one of the ones that I wrote a long time ago, it still sticks with me. It's just all elevated comfort food that is just like, it's not super pretentious, but it's like a little bit nicer of a spin on a meatloaf and like on like a sloppy Joe even. And then the crazy things. I'm really into, like, we had a class in culinary school. I went to culinary school in San Francisco, and we had a class called Foods of the Americas, and it was all about indigenous ingredients in the continent of America, and then following like food trends around the country, and like, the impact that building the railroads did, like with, you'll find like amazing Chinese food in like North Dakota because of the railroads, and then like Mexican cuisine, and then just how stuff flows. And then I had a conversation with Michel Nichon, and he was explaining to me about he opened, I can't remember which one it was. Oh, the dressing room. When he was opening the dressing room, he had the idea of doing everything comfort food from the standpoint, if American comfort food was continued to be passed down through the hands of craftspeople, you know what I mean? People that actually took it seriously. And like, I never thought about, at some point in like the 60s or 70s or 50s even, a lot of like the craft of cooking and homemaking was stunted by like big brands and convenience items, like we were talking about, like
the canned
tomato sauce, and like, and it's really interesting. He showed me a database, and I think it was University of Michigan. There's like an online database that has kind of compiled all these original recipes that were written by people that knew what they were doing, and were handing it down to other people that knew what they were doing before, not to disparage Chef Boyardee, but before they came into play. You know what I mean?
So my friend Bobby, he has his pages, Retro Kitchen Recipes, I think, on Instagram. Sorry if I'm wrong, Bobby. He'll let me know if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Retro Kitchen Recipes. He just put up, he's got a book. And a lot of the stuff that he does is like, I mean, first of all, he's good at delivering the retro vibe on social media, like the music and the look, and he's fucking really good at it. But and his book is really good as well. Like I've already had the opportunity to look at it. But he's doing stuff that's like, you know, a lot of gelatin dishes, a lot of,
Yeah.
like carpetbagger,
Yeah.
this, that, and it's like you forget about some of these things. And so when I'm looking at some of this, I was like, I remember making that.
Yeah.
I remember some of these dishes were on menus.
Yeah.
Some of that was family meal, like was the chicken tetrazzini. And,
Yeah.
a lot of these old dishes that's
and turkey tetrazzini, all those
right,
things.
the turkey
Yeah,
tetrazzini.
Yeah.
A lot of these dishes, well, he does a great job at that. So for shout out to Bobby. He's I don't think anyone's doing what he's doing on bringing that sort of awareness out there. So people should follow him. But it's curious to see where that food would have wound up today.
Yeah.
If there wasn't some sort of fork in the road that, here comes Monsanto.
Yeah. I was thinking about it just, there's another funny story. We were talking about Gabe Orales earlier.
Yeah.
And we've only met one time. I don't know him very well, but we text occasionally on social media. But like my family is all Mexican from my dad's Greek and Irish. My mom's full Mexican. My dad didn't have any brothers and sisters, and my mom has a million.
So you grew up Mexican.
I grew up Mexican.
Yeah.
And eating only Mexican comfort food. And, my grandma was a Greek cook on my dad's side, and my grandpa on my dad's side, he was remarried to an Italian before I was born. So I'm kind of taking a tangent, but he was a baker. He opened the first bakery in a grocery store in Northern California. And then him and my grandma owned a bakery in Northern California. So it was like kind of an Italian. She was Daisy Lupi. Then the bakery was called Lupi's Bakery in Northern California. But so I've always been kind of surrounded by food, in spite of me never wanting to cook. I don't know that I really had a choice in retrospect. Mm-hmm. But back to the Gabe thing. So I've always had a issue for whatever reason. I don't know. I've been kind of exploring it, but like this mind block of cooking Mexican. So like whenever I have to do anything fancy or an audition or whatever, mm-hmm. for whatever reason, I like trend Asian, like towards Asian flavors. I have no experience with Asian cuisine. Like I never worked in there's, except for like a really good teacher in culinary school, but like for whatever reason, the flavors, when I just think about doing something fancy, it would be like soy based or something, and really strange. And I kind of boiled it down to like, one, it's so comforting. It feels like it's not special. It's like only special to me. You know what I mean? It's like, it seems too easy or like too kind of passe. And again, that's just me kind of analyzing my stance psychologically, right? But so I've never really, there's a few recipes that I do and I'll incorporate on occasion, but like I grew up, my grandma, they're from Mission, Texas, and my grandma always made flour tortillas for us. Like, I mean, mm-hmm. all day, every day, you go into my grandma's house, and there was a pot of beans and a pot of rice and
flour tortillas,
and the comal was always on.
You did it with a little bit of butter.
Yeah, butter, or then we'd get super crazy and fry it and put sugar and cinnamon on it, the little buñuelos,
Yeah.
But like always with butter or jam or whatever, and always with our food. Like she used to tell me that real Mexicans don't use silverware. Like you just got to tear the tortilla apart and eat with the tortillas. And I used to make them with her all the time.
The tortillas.
Yeah. All the time. And like I have this, she always made it in the same bowl, in this blue bowl that like that's kind of how she measured everything. And I have this vivid memory of like my hands being in the bowl with her and getting the feel for the masa and everything, and like her telling me that water had to be as hot as your hands could stand. So you got to make it as hot as you can, but not to burn your hands, and your hands stay in the bowl. So I have all these memories, but I've never made flour tortillas, right? Yeah. And so during COVID, I had a test kitchen with a company I was working for in Louisville, and I worked every day through COVID, but often I was by myself in my full test kitchen and not doing what it was meant for. So it was just, but it was very therapeutic for me during COVID just to go in and cook. And I was just cooking for people that was like running the business, and it felt very military. But like one Saturday, I went into the office and I was in the kitchen by myself and I was going to make flour tortillas.
Yeah.
So I texted Gabe. I was like, what is your flour tortilla recipe? And I always feel so stupid because it's like 3 ingredients. You know what I mean? But I need somebody's recipe or method or something.
Yeah.
And so he sent it to me. And I was in my kitchen by myself. My kitchen had windows in it. And I was like, sun was rising. It was like just the perfect time of day. It was super clean. Everything was set up for me. And I was by myself. I turned on mariachi music, Linda Ronstadt, the Canciones de mi Padre that my mom and my family used to listen to. And I like actually FaceTime my mom and I got Gabe's recipe and I'm channeling my grandma and remembering all this stuff. And those shits didn't turn out at all. Not at
Gabe
all.
sent you the wrong fucking.
Yeah. He was trying to sabotage me. No, it was definitely user error. But it was like, I couldn't make it work,
Yeah.
you know? And but back to the convenience product aspect of stuff. I remember my grandma, this is like how kind of micro it can get. Like, as I was thinking about the conversation with Michelle, my grandma used to toast cumin seeds and smash them in the molcajete. I don't know if she didn't have access to ground cumin, you know, or like, I don't know, because, you know, it was always called comino or whatever, but eventually her recipe morphed into ground cumin, not toasted. And like the little salsa changes would just be with things that started showing up more in Northern California. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's all kinds of crazy stuff, whether it's macaroni and cheese or toasted cumin seeds, I guess.
It's funny. You know, I grew up a latchkey kid. I was texting with someone about this last night. We were talking about, you know, food from our childhood and how it shaped us as chefs. I grew up as a latchkey kid. My parents divorced when I was pretty young. So I was either living with my mom or with my dad.
Yep.
One or the other. And the good thing about living with my dad is, you know, he would go out and party, whatever. So he wasn't coming home till 2 a.m. So I'd have the house to myself. And when I first learned to cook, you know, I'd invite cousins, friends over. So, you know, we're all going to stay the night. We're middle school, high school era.
Yeah.
You know, come over, stay the night. We're going to watch Goodfellas or Godfather or something like that. I'm going to cook a big Italian feast. We're going to play cards and we're going to like prank call fucking whoever out of the phone book or
Yeah.
But the food that I first learned how to cook because no one taught me how to cook. You know, I don't have that beautiful like, oh, grandma's food or mom's food. And I didn't really grow up that way. I mean, I ate what they fed me, but I wasn't in the kitchen with them.
Totally.
But when I learned how to cook, it was because I was like that scene in Goodfellas where Polly's slicing the garlic with the razor blade. I'm like, I want to make that. I want to make the fucking sausage and so I learned how to cook that, you know, buying magazines or whatever and getting Italian recipes. So I'd make that. And that is like my food identity when I was growing up was that Italian food that I was like, hey, we're gonna fucking watch Goodfellas and Godfather
and make Italian food.
fucking make Italian food.
Yeah.
Like, what else were we gonna do? We're kids.
Yeah. That's the best. I mean, we had, I don't know. You know, the funny thing is it was very much the same way. Like I was always surrounded by food, like all kinds of different flavors and approaches. And I grew up, same thing. I like, my parents were divorced when I was in 6th grade. And I went to 9 schools and lived all over the Bay Area and did everything.
A lot of stupid shit. I'm assuming.
Yes, lots of stupid shit.
Yeah.
And but it was, you know, we had to cook for ourselves. My sister really kind of got stuck cooking for me, but it was more like I remember I had like it's crazy how like you have like alcohol stories. If you get too drunk and you threw up on tequila, you never drink tequila for like years or whatever.
Right.
My sister, we used to eat minute rice with butter and salt on it. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's what we ate when we were kids, like when she would have to cook for me. And I loved it. I really liked it. But then one time I put too much salt on, or like the top came off or something, and it was like disgusting. And she was like, well, that's all you got to eat. So you better fucking eat it. And so I ate it, and then now I can't stand the smell of parboiled rice, like still.
Wow. You know, it's fun. I'm like that with soy sauce.
Yeah.
I like soy sauce,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when I was a kid, I went to a friend's house. I didn't know anything about soy sauce.
Yeah.
You know, I was used to eating fucking Mexican food all day,
Yeah,
right? And so I go to a friend's house, and I'm like probably 5 or 6 years old, like kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah.
And his family made Chinese food, and they had white rice, and they gave me some soy sauce, and I just doused the food in soy sauce. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's ketchup. It's like soup at this point.
Yeah.
And I remember the dad who was like very stern, looking at me and saying, "You're gonna eat all that." And I'm like, I'm a little kid, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't know what soy sauce is, but they see me wasting it.
Yeah.
It's their soy sauce. They know I'm fucking up.
Yeah.
And they made me
It's
eat.
probably nice soy sauce.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what it was, Kiko Man or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember they made me finish all that rice, and I'm like
Dude.
gagging, and it's like my friend's dad is like a military man,
Yeah,
big guy.
yeah,
I'm like 7 years old or 6 years old. He's like, you better eat all that rice.
Dude.
I'm like gagging it down.
That's the worst. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I had I think, you know, kind of back to the alternative careers and kind of how I backed into the military and cooking just in general. It was like kind of the same. I've been in senior housing it was just a little over 20 years that I was in senior housing. And it was very much the same. I had no intention of working in senior housing. It was an accident. I was working at a winery in Northern California, and I changed whatever. The winery didn't, the management company for the catering operation fired me when I was on vacation, which was super fun. But I've maintained friendships with everybody though, and the winery is Mitchell Katz Winery. My friend Mitch passed away a couple years ago unexpectedly, and his son is running everything, and it's in Livermore. I just had to give them a quick shout out. But I was working at that winery, and I didn't have a job, so I just started applying everywhere on Craigslist back in the day, and you know, going on all these interviews and printing out my MapQuest things, because like, you know, there was no navigation. You know, this was like, I don't even know what year it was, early 2000s. And I got an interview for this place called Atria, and I didn't know what it was. And so I went and interviewed with them, and I saw that it was a senior living place when I pulled up. And before I interviewed, actually, I almost didn't go in to the interview at all, but it was like 20, 30 minutes from my house. So I was like, well, shit, I'm already out here. I better just go do it and see what's up. And I went in, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to work here. And then I met the people that interviewed me at the time, my former boss, and they were amazing. And then when I saw the senior housing, I was like, it was way different than what I anticipated. I thought it was going to be what I now know is a nursing home, like a skilled nursing facility, or a much more clinical environment that's more like a hospital, and like people wear scrubs and tile floors, and that's what I was expecting. This wasn't. This was like, and you know, and again, this is 20 years ago, so there's been a lot of advancements since. But when I started, it was still really nice. Carpeted floors, real dining rooms, like restaurant sorts of things. The linens, people got dressed nice to come to the restaurant. And I was like, there's a lot that we can do with this place. And I told myself, my friend that hired me still jokes with me about it, that I was like, look, I'm either going to be here for a short enough period of time that I never have to talk about it again, or I'm going to be here forever. And turns out I was there forever. It was like 20 years.
You have a very interesting career that I don't know if I've ever had anyone on the podcast before that's probably worked in as many diverse areas of the industry as you, because I feel like you've been in hotels, like you said, you were in the Navy.
Yeah.
You know, you're in a restaurant now, brewery.
Yeah.
You got a partner in a bakery. Like you got.
And a freestanding restaurant.
A freestanding, like you've covered pretty much every aspect of the industry at that a chef can go into. And one of the things that I think about often is that obviously I have a podcast, so I talk to chefs and I talk to industry. Um, that's my audience. But unfortunately, we usually talk about a certain section of the industry,
Right.
which is like maybe 5 or 6 restaurants.
Yeah.
But that is 5 or 6 restaurants that are covering 500 employees when
Yeah.
there's millions of people in the business.
Yeah.
And the industry is so varied and vast. And just because something's going on in one type of restaurant doesn't mean that the entire industry is affected by that,
Right.
and vice versa. I think it's super interesting. I think for a lot of people, when you're starting your culinary career, um, like get some experience. Figure out what you want to do first of all, but get some experience. Like we go into into certain kitchens and we think, well, this is the best. It's
Right.
like, well, you can't say that if you've never worked anywhere else.
Right.
If you only know this.
Yeah. And your exposure to different chefs, like the other thing, when I got out of, so I was military first and then freestanding restaurant for 5 years. We opened a second location and I got to design my first kitchen there, which was really just mild adjustments to the line and a different placement to the
Moving at
walk-in.
6 feet.
Yeah. That was it. But still, like it was a mom and pop opening, like literally laid the foundation for the kitchen floor myself, like with a shovel, you know what I mean? Like helping out. And then going to the Four Seasons after culinary school, and my trajectory after I went to culinary school, forget the Four Seasons, but after culinary school,
Where'd you go to culinary school?
the California Culinary Academy.
CCA.
Yeah, CCA before the Cordon Bleu bought it.
When were you there?
I got out in 98, 99.
Okay, so I went to school in Portland, Oregon. I graduated in 95, 96. I don't remember.
What school?
It was the Western Culinary.
I know where it is.
Yeah, in Portland.
Yeah.
And
With the glass front.
yeah, I don't know what it looks like. I don't even know if it still exists, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I remember the dean of the school had come from CCA. His name was Larry Lewis. Had a ponytail. He was
I don't know him.
I don't know if you. I think it might have been before your time, but
Yeah.
he was like the coolest dude.
Yeah. And the CCA was great when I went. But one, again, I mean, it's weird when I talk about this stuff, but like I didn't want to go to culinary school. Like
Yeah. So why'd you go?
because everybody kind of convinced me, if you're my dad had a big part in that, but I had just met my wife, my only wife. We've been together since 96.
Yeah.
So we had just kind of gotten together and I was trying to figure out where we were, like what I was going to do for a career. And, like a lot of people, I spent 5 years in one restaurant talking about I'm going to get a real job at some point and watching everybody around me go get a real job and finish their school. And like, that's a lot of the stuff that I teach and preach currently is like hospitality and cooking is really placeholders for people. There's no serious professionals that get into hospitality intentionally, at least that I've met, like have gotten in to either cooking or front of house management or service and been like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. Day one, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? There's a few, and I went to school and started with people that had that attitude and didn't last like more than a year or so. But like when I went to culinary school, everybody was kind of trying to convince me to go. And then I had my GI Bill from the military. So I used it, went to culinary school, and it was fantastic. And also, before I went to culinary school, I had done 2 externships at my job. So like people had graduated from the CCA and come and done their externship with me, and they couldn't cook for shit. And I was like, what am I going to go pay these people to show me how to work like this kid? It's slicing a mushroom one piece at a time, putting it in a bowl. Like it was crazy. But when I went, I was like, all right, I'm going to go and I'm going to treat this super seriously. And I'm the worst academic. I hate school. And, like I can't, like too much ADD. But, my wife is very academic. She helped me do my schoolwork, did my reports and stuff. But I could cook, so like I knew that I was good at cooking and I was just going to hang out with the teachers and not try to make friends with anybody. I was trying to make money. If I was going to go to culinary school, my next move was a check. I didn't care
Do you
about.
remember what you were making back then?
I was making, I think I was making $15 an hour.
Damn.
It might have been. I think they convinced me to go salary for like 25,000 a year,
Really?
or something.
I remember when I was making, like, it was a big deal for me when I got my first $11 an hour
Yeah.
job. And
Well, I was in the Bay Area.
yeah, I know. And I remember making $11 an hour. It was a sous chef job, and I was negotiating with the person. I was like, "Can I get like 11.25?" And they're like, "No, take it or leave it." I was like $11, like a $2 raise from my $9.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. That's and that's what it was. So as soon as I got out of culinary school, I was expecting to make money.
Yeah.
Like that was it, and I didn't care. So I wasn't chasing. I wasn't gonna go to the fanciest place. I remember, so like in culinary school, you have to go find a place to do an externship.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was going to French Laundry or Stars or Chez Panisse, or like a bunch of my friends went to Picasso, like in Vegas, and like everything was going on.
Everyone stayed in California? Was that from CCA? At the
Most people were, and a lot of the people that were looking for those externships weren't from California.
Do you know where? Oh, so I went to culinary school in Portland. Do you know where the hot places were?
Where?
You're not going to believe this.
Where?
Taco Bell. I'm not kidding. I remember the Taco Bell person came. Yeah. They were trying to recruit from culinary school and saying, store manager from Taco Bell. I don't remember the numbers though. Making $50,000 a year.
Right? Lucky I didn't go to that school. That's where I'd have been.
But I'll
still be at Taco Bell.
I'll never forget. Like they were like Taco Bell showing up trying to recruit. Yeah. A lot of kids went.
Yeah.
Like they're like, fuck, that's a lot of money at Taco Bell to be a Taco Bell manager.
Yeah.
The Benson Hotel in Portland, Oregon was the other one that was getting big recruitment. But the Playboy Mansion.
Oh shit!
The Playboy Mansion was taken, and Disney, Disney, Playboy Mansion, Taco Bell, and the Benson Hotel. Everyone from my culinary school was like, "We got to get into that Playboy Mansion." It was like the fucking hottest. It was the hottest place for people to try and get an internship.
Well, when for whatever reason, there was so many people trying to go to these spots, and I didn't want to go. Yeah. Like I had no desire. I just thought it was corny. I thought it was like. I didn't even know anything about it, right? I went to Stars a bunch because it was near my school, and I had a bunch of people working there. But I would go see them work in a station in like a place like Stars with like the volume that Stars was doing, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work in one station and have one component to one dish. You know what I mean? I want to do everything, and I want to be in charge.
You know how to cook. That's not the problem. The problem is getting your team to do what you want, when you want it. That's leadership. My book, Culinary Leadership Fundamentals, breaks down exactly how to run a kitchen without losing your mind. Stop yelling, start leading. Get the book at chefspsa.com.
And so like my trajectory was totally backwards. So like coming from volume and institutional, and then trying to make money, and then going to the Four Seasons, and then starting to see like what we were talking about a little bit earlier when I went to the Four Seasons, I was on the tail end of the change. It was changing. It was the Clift Hotel, and it was changing from the actual Four Seasons into a Marriott, and then ultimately Schrager bought it while I was there. I did the Millennium New Year's at that hotel. So I didn't get to work with all of the chefs that ran it, but I got to work with all the cooks and all the servers and all the bartenders that were like 20, 30-year union employees.
So they knew it.
They knew everything.
Yeah.
And
for people that don't know, we were talking about this earlier, the chef at the Four Seasons at the time, Mercer Moore, who I met as well. We crossed paths briefly. And I remember him telling me that his sous chefs at the time at the Four Seasons in San Francisco were Michael Mina and Mario Batali.
Right. Yes. And I didn't get to meet them, but there were Mario. I don't remember ever hearing of him being in San Francisco, at least while I was there.
Yeah. By the way, I have no idea if that's true.
Yeah, well,
I'm just taking his word for it.
Yeah. There's so much also about like not being able to Google,
Right.
I was thinking about coming on.
It was better to lie back then.
Yeah.
Get away with it.
I was thinking about coming on here, and I have like all these stories, and I was like, damn, I don't even know if that's true. It's something that I've just known for my whole life. I don't even know if it's real. But but Michael Mina was always around, and he took over Charles Nob Hill at some point, and Ron Siegel from San Francisco was he's kind of
At that time,
I'm the big fanboy.
the fucking goat, right?
Yeah.
So for people that don't know the name Ron Siegel, and I think it's important to do your homework on some of these great chefs that set the foundation for you. I don't know exactly what his relationship to the French Laundry was. I don't know if he was a sous chef there or what, but he went through that system.
Yep.
And then he was the chef at the dining room at the Ritz-Carlton in San Francisco.
I think it might have actually been his concept.
Right.
I can't remember
something
what it was
like
called.
that.
Yeah.
But he was the first American to go on Iron Chef Japan before Iron Chef America even was a thought.
It's the reason that I have ever heard of Iron Chef. It
Right.
wasn't the other way around. He didn't get famous, from my perspective, he didn't get famous from being on Iron Chef. Iron Chef got famous to me because he was on it.
Right.
And watching him, and like, first of all, seeing Iron Chef, and that, again, no Google back in the days. I'm just going to sound like a old guy, but like the only way you saw that was passed around VHS tapes, because somebody found some non-translated Japanese stadium cooking show that this dude from San Francisco went on and crushed and won Battle Lobster.
Well, and the crazy thing is he was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the mayor of San Francisco hand selected him. So like, we need a chef to represent the United States to go to fucking Japan, be on this crazy stadium game show, and fucking be the best of us.
Yeah.
Be the best chance we have to fucking win. And they sent Ron Siegel.
Yeah.
And he fucking won.
Yeah.
He fucking won. He's a total fucking gangster.
And I don't think that I've ever said more than hi chef, big fan to you.
Yeah.
I think that's the extent of our conversations ever. But having seen him around and like been in the same places at the same time, like he is just the most unassuming dude, and like not that Iron Chef guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for him, I wonder. I would love to hear his perspective on that story.
Yeah, so would
like,
I. Ron, I don't know if you listen to the show.
Yeah.
I got a chair for you.
Yeah.
I want to know what that was like.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like, his stuff that he did, like so he was at Charles Nob Hill, which Michael Mina ended up owning, I think. But my experience at Charles Nob Hill, because I was such a big fan, I proposed to my wife on our anniversary, on our dating anniversary, and I was carrying around a ring with a little proposal note in the box, and she gave me my anniversary present first, and it was a tie and a gift certificate to Charles Nob Hill, so I could go have Ron's tasting menu.
Yeah.
And it was the first fancy fine dining tasting experience that I had ever been a part of, but the gift presentation was overshadowed by me proposing.
Was it a tasting menu back then, or was it a la carte? Do you remember?
No, it was tasting.
It was
for
tasting
sure.
menu.
Yeah. It was like, and you had a choice. I can't remember how many courses, but we got the extended course, like whatever. And when I met my wife, when we first started dating, she was like lean cuisines and like medium well filet or well filet. And we went there and it was like sweetbreads and, just everything. And she was like a little hesitant, but she ate everything. I was saying something to her during that dinner that we still use now, right? Like when we go out with people, it's like, taste it, because if you don't like it here, you're never going to like it. So
I'll tell you, that's a fucking true statement.
That's it. So if you don't like Ron Siegel's sweetbreads, you're never going to like them. So you may as well taste it now.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we're talking about back in the day, we had like the Food Lovers Companion era. We were the Food Lovers Companion dictionary chefs, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Library chefs.
Yeah.
And then the next generation was the generation of chefs that had Google for information. And then the third generation after that, the current one's the AI generation, right?
Yeah.
They don't need Google. But in my opinion, when we were coming up, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when we were talking, that one of the things that I think people miss out is you had to learn it and you had to memorize it.
Yeah.
Because you needed to memorize the terms and the definitions and the recipes and things like that, because you weren't going to look it up on your phone. There was if you didn't know it, there was no
Uh-uh.
going back to the computer to figure it out. You
Right.
needed to know that information. And I think, I mean, I remember when we were cooks, we'd like quiz each other all the time. Like, what is Matignon? What is this?
Yeah.
You know, tell us the 5 mother sauces. And it was like constant, like break down to chantilly.
Yeah.
Can you use powdered sugar? Can you have to use granulated?
And also because like it's not, even if your place had recipes, they would call for hollandaise. Not
Right.
There wouldn't be a sub recipe for the mother sauce. It would just be whatever. You know what I mean? So like, well, what the hell? What is that? Like I remember I had to look up what a Dutch oven was.
Yeah.
Because the recipe, I was making a soup and the recipe called for a Dutch oven. I didn't know what it was. And I was like, how? And there was nowhere to go. Like I had to like keep calling people until I found like the Food Lover's Companion.
And it's crazy because, you know, that Food Lover's Companion was like, it is what we fucking base. You were talking about the in the back, there was like the grid, not the grid, but like the
there was
break down the ratio,
measurement conversions, smoke points, cuts of meat, like all that stuff. And I was talking, I hired my new chef for the company I'm working with now. He's younger, and I was telling him how reliant I was on the Food Lover's Companion. He was like, "Oh, me too. You're not that old." I was like, "No, but you don't understand. Like, there was no not having it. It was like having your phone. Like my chef would tell me something, and it would just be like, "Yes, chef." And
if you don't know,
go walk in, and go look it up. Otherwise, and then the same thing, like what we were talking about, like having recipes passed down from people like professionals or craftspeople that did it from one person to another. I have all these notes. I remember just like standing on the line on saute and writing down the steps of everything that went into the pan sauce, right? Like start with this, you know, next this. And I would write it down on a Post-it or my little notepad. And that was my recipe. Like if there was no like referring back or being able to go ask, you know, like, cause they didn't want to hear from me, not the OG union cooks at the hotel, you know, they didn't care.
And it's funny because back in the day, you know, I had one of these recipe books. I found like an old notebook of mine with, it wasn't even a recipe, it was just method, the pickup on the saute, add garlic, add shallots, deglaze, you know, so on and so forth. But a lot of times, and you know, I talk to chefs all day. You're talking about Gabe earlier, sending you a recipe for tortillas, right?
Yeah.
And I think what people miss is that there's no secrets.
Yeah.
Like where everyone's sharing recipes all the time.
Totally.
And then you don't know where they came from. And you might be in a restaurant 5 years later.
Yeah.
And then like you've been making this recipe that was handed to you by one person, that was handed by another person and then someone notices, oh, that came from this cookbook. It's like, I didn't know. I never had that cookbook.
Right. 100%.
This was handed to me 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
Once it's out there as you know, in the public domain.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fair game. At that point, everyone's using it in their restaurants.
There was a period of time in like the mid 2000s where like the salmon cornet was everywhere with catering.
Everywhere.
And whether it was like the actual recipe or whatever, they were everywhere. And then like you can buy the cornets and sometimes they're sweet. There'd be like some shitty tartare and this sweet like ice cream cone thing. And like these younger cooks would have no idea where it was from. And you know, like they think they created something or whatever. Yeah. And like, you know, the other thing, I had kind of an epiphany moment when I moved to New York City in 2010, and I'd been going there for work a bunch. But when I moved there in 2010, you know, I grew up listening to hip hop and punk rock, hip hop first, and then I got into punk rock because the scenes were very
Bay Area hip hop.
Yeah, no. I was East Coast hip hop. I listened to Cold Crush Brothers first. Cold Crush to Run DMC, and I hated Bay Area hip hop, but now, you know, it's my DNA. So now it's just like my childhood. So now I listen to everything. But like for years, I hated West Coast rap at all. So it was all New York. But so when I went to New York, from food to music, rap, punk rock, food, it was like a museum to me. Like New York was just like, it was like Mecca, you know, like every street I drove past, I either had some association with food or a hip hop lyric or like something from the Beastie Boys or punk rock or whatever. And I started going to all the restaurants that I had only read about, like, and gourmet magazine or whatever, seen pictures because I don't read really. So all the pictures that I saw, I was going to look for. But I went to, and I used to have like this progressive brunch that I used to bring people on when they'd come to visit. There was a place called Mac Bar that just served macaroni and cheese like out of this little window, and they like had the coolest merch, and like they served the macaroni and cheese on like this yellow half. It looked like a piece of macaroni, right?
Yeah, okay,
It
cool.
was the coolest branding. Food was mid, but it was like kind of a must do. So we'd go to Mac Bar, Donut Plant, and then WD-50, and we'd get the eggs Benedict or like the eggs Florentine at WD-50. And I had like this love-hate relationship with the you know this
Like the molecular movement.
yeah, the molecular movement. But like I went to I went to a talk with Wiley, and somebody was asking him about molecular gastronomy back in the day, and he like took offense to it. Like he was like, what is molecular gastronomy? And so I still haven't really come up with that answer, so I hesitate to call it the molecular movement. But I had like this, I was so impressed with like the fried hollandaise and like just the approach and making that dish. And I went there like probably once a week to have it. It was fantastic. And but like I didn't know how he made it, and I would always just try to figure stuff out. And then it was I don't know if it was at the same, well, it was around the same time period that it was restaurant week, and I went to while I'm trying to come to grips with my feeling about like fried hollandaise and things that are done so well but from a different standpoint of craftsmanship, right? I went to Nougatine by John George for restaurant week, and my wife and I never stuck to restaurant week menus. We always got all the supplements and ended up paying $1 million. And even though we went there for the $40 restaurant week menu, we just everything was, yeah, we'll take the upgrade. But we went to Nougatine, and I stuck to the menu, and it was a roasted chicken breast with chicken jus, mashed potatoes, and green beans. And it was like still one of the most memorable meals that I've had in New York. And it was like, because
it was executed perfectly.
it was just perfect.
Yeah.
Like the chicken was perfect. It was moist where it was supposed to be moist. The skin was crispy. Mashed potatoes were velvety. The chicken jus was super rich, and the green beans were perfect. And it was just simple. And I thought to myself, and I wrote it down, like the difference between the two approaches is like one, the way I put it was like, Willy Wonka is amazing, but he's not really a chef, like the Jean George aspect of it. And this is nothing to take away or give too much credit to either one of the approaches, but I am way more into just the classic cooking approach. But I also found that you can't be well-rounded or talk shit about something unless you have a full understanding of how to do it, because then it looks like you're a quitter, or it looks like you're, just talking shit from the outside. And it's really easy to hate when you don't know how to do something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And Wiley is a Jean George guy.
Right. Yeah. And like the other thing was like, I did an event. I do a lot of catering and event production as well. And I did an event with somebody, and they were doing some sort of encapsulation, and they were doing encapsulated ranch, and I think the same,
like reverse spherification.
Yeah.
Alginate. And
Yeah. And it was like, there's nothing impressive about, because
you don't want to encapsulate a ranch on your slice of pizza.
yeah, no. I mean, that does kind of sound bomb, or at least efficient.
Yeah.
But the people that created the sodium alginate, calcium citrate situation, that is genius. But you got to leave it with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or understand it and let it propel you to coming up with the next thing. But like, the more you maybe it's not so much that you can't use it, because it's not like I don't encapsulate stuff, but it's more of respecting it and treating it like, you know,
Don't treat it like a joke.
yeah, don't treat it like a joke. And
Yeah.
just because they made this thing, I mean, just think about what it takes to come up with those two things. I mean, that's not cooking. That's just brilliance and science. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, I don't understand that aspect of things. But now that they've done it, it's really easy. Like,
Yes.
now that I mean, I
It's like the
think
person who invented the wheel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think my analogy is like, just because you've learned how to play Stairway to Heaven, it doesn't mean you wrote it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Just because you know how to play the song.
Yeah, you're not gonna go do open mics just playing Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. Just because you know the fucking joke that you saw in the stand-up special and you're repeating it.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean you're funny.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. There's a certain art to it, and a lot of respect to those guys that were doing that movement of, you know, we have to classify it as molecular because I don't know what else to call it. So
Yeah,
for the
same.
audience listening, like, hey, we're calling it this.
Yeah,
If you have a better word, tell me.
yeah.
But a lot of chefs that were doing that, and I was one of them. I was
Yeah.
one of those chefs that I was an early adopter of that style of food when I was in California. And I was doing that, and I found it fascinating. But I'll never forget when I came face to face with him. This was the reality that I faced. I remember, I don't know what I was doing. It was a mango sphere or something. It was one of these spheres, reverse spherification things. And I remember I tasted it. I was like, but it just doesn't taste good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like I was like, it tastes like mango with a little bit
And
of
you're doing
chemical
it for the
to
sake of doing it.
Right. It's like I
Yeah.
wanted it to be interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be provocative and show people things that they'd never seen before. But it's like, but it doesn't taste as good as this.
Right.
At least in my opinion.
The thing about that was the thing about the WD-50 Hollandaise. It was perfect.
Uh-huh.
It tasted perfect. Like, and it blew me away because, again, I wasn't familiar enough with the technique when I used to go there, and I used to try to figure out how they did it all the time. Like, I would be like, what do you put in that? Like, how does it hold its form when you fry it? Like, I don't understand. And I would sit there, I would eat it every week, and you know, I've never, same with Wiley, I've never had more than like 2 words conversation with him, and I would just sit there and try to understand it, and then like a drop of the hollandaise fell on my table like while I was eating. And like when it gets cold, it solidifies, and then I could feel it. It was like a Dippin' Dot sort of thing, and I was like, huh. Well, now I understand it, but like, I think with places like WD-50, for example, and the stuff that, you know, all those guys that I respect the hell out of do,
Yeah.
the flavor is first.
Yeah.
then
And
that's
Wiley's a
followed by
pioneer, and now
technique.
he's doing pizza that's
Wild.
donuts or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the guy knows how to cook. Like
Yeah.
I think people forget, like they put him into this box of like being this, but
Yeah.
it's like the dude is a fucking gangster
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
kitchen, in any realm.
Yeah.
In any realm. Like, you think you
you
can't saute a fucking chicken?
Yeah.
You think you can't roast a chicken too, or make a fucking espanol?
I think that's probably why I was getting annoyed at the talk that
Yeah.
I was listening to.
Yeah. So you do some work with Jacques Pépin.
Yes.
How did that come to be? By the way, he also a fucking legend.
Yeah.
One of the best books ever, right? La Technique, La Méthode.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough. The one of my business partners and former head of my company, obviously took a big interest in the culinary arts and our discipline, and I found out about the Jacques Pépin Foundation at their first gala, and we went and we were promoting our restaurant at the time, Butchertown Grocery, and got to meet Jacques, got to meet the family, and we just kind of, I don't know if it was like the first time that we went, but my wife and I kind of became fast friends with his son-in-law Raleigh and Claudine, his daughter. And so, and we've been friends, you know, we've done a bunch of stuff since, like we went to the Derby together, Kentucky Derby, all kinds of stuff. And I've been lucky enough to be able to cook for Jacques at like the Greenwich Food and Wine Festival. And he came to the opening of our senior living restaurant in Hudson Yards, and all kinds of really cool stuff has happened as a result of the JPF. And I'm lucky enough now that they trust me to kind of be an ambassador for them. So like for 90 for 90, Jacques' birthday, initiative that they did last year. They had 90 cooking events in 90 different venues in honor of Jacques' 90th birthday. So Jacques is 90 and still, like he still does demos. And
Wow.
like his hands are
His
ridiculous.
His PBS series back in the day when he would like teach you how to debone a chicken for Ballantine or make a French omelet. He's fucking amazing. Like he is
crazy.
One of the greats. He's one of the greats. He's in his own category.
Yeah. The coolest thing about being around, being able to be at those events is seeing Danielle, John George, Danny Meyer, anybody who you can think of. The coolest people, the people that would be the coolest people in any room, are all enamored with Jacques. Like he is the most respected person that I've ever seen in the hospitality industry, and having to have had the opportunity to hang out with him like personally and like do stuff outside of events and stuff with him. He is the most genuine, real person that I've ever been around.
I've never met him.
It's so crazy, and it's almost like a negative thing because we'll sit having a conversation, and all of a sudden we're equals in my mind because like the conversation is so normal and chill, and I'm trying to relate. He was telling me about his garden at one point that he was taking care of, and I was like, oh yeah, what'd you grow? I had this, whatever. And he was like, oh no, this wasn't mine, this was Michelle Obama's, like at the White House. And I was like, oh yeah, we are not alike.
But
sorry.
Isn't that so cool that like everyone sees Jacques, but then you see him as like a peer, and that's probably even better.
Yeah,
like that. And I have a very similar situation where Thomas Keller sat down. I was at a table, and it was like Matthew Peters, Philip Tessier, myself, Lauren Peters, Phil Tessier's wife, and then Thomas came and sat down with us and talking.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the best moments I've ever had because he just was normal.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't Thomas Keller. He was just
he
was just talking. We were just having a conversation about whatever we happened to be talking about. And I remember thinking to myself at that moment, it was a very beautiful moment. That I was like, you know what? To me, seeing him normal is almost better than seeing Thomas Keller.
Totally.
If that makes sense.
And while you're saying that, though, I just kind of had this light go off. Like, it's the other really cool thing about our industry and what we do.
Yeah.
Because because we all just cook.
Yeah.
Like ultimately it's just cooking.
Yeah.
And like to watch, like to see Jacques just move around like a house party, like, and Raleigh, his son-in-law, tells me that one of the best meals, forgive me if I'm quoting this wrong, Raleigh, but one of his best meals that he had was after they cooked a bunch of chickens for a dinner party. Jacques took the carcasses and roasted them again, and they ate those as their dinner the next night.
Wow.
And Raleigh was like, it was like the best thing that I ever had.
How cool is that?
And it's like, it's just, you demystify everything. And
he likes to paint, right?
Yeah.
So I have one of his paintings that he did, lithograph.
Yeah.
Young Yun, who's part of Mentor BKB, gave it to me as a gift. And it's like one of my prized possessions on my wall in my office.
I have it in my house now, but we got my buddy bought one of the first roosters. And it's this big, it's huge, and we had it hanging over the entrance of our kitchen at the restaurant. So like everybody had to pass by Jacques, and then when we opened this place in Hudson Yards, it was behind the maitre d' stand. So like everybody, you had to pay homage to Jacques every time you walked.
If Jacques is ever down here in Texas, please invite me too.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet. He's
the big gala is April 9th at Chelsea Piers in New York. I did a bourbon experience, the best of Kentucky experience for an auction item for the JPF that they're going to be auctioning off, and I'm part of the package as your bourbon concierge. Phone a friend.
Yeah, what's up with the bourbon here?
So having lived in Kentucky, so my company, my senior living company, Atria and Coterie, that I got permission to say, they Atria and Coterie, they're based in Louisville, Kentucky, and so I lived there. I worked there for like 10 years, but actually, for 20 years, but I actually lived there for a little over 8.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a restaurant there that closed and COVID, but the bakery is still open, Butchertown Grocery Bakery. But I got kind of my indoctrination to bourbon with opening the restaurant.
Can I see it?
Yeah. This is for you. You can open that up.
Thank you.
And
people can see it on the camera.
We've done lots of single barrels, so I got to learn a lot about Kentucky and Kentucky bourbon, and it's actually the only thing that I drink now. When I do, it's only bourbon. And now,
I do as well, by the way, these days.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
And now I'm working for this company called Urban Stillhouse and Horse Soldier Bourbon. So this thing, I was trying to kind of slow down, and
can people find it everywhere?
yeah, that's distributed everywhere. Horse Soldier Bourbon is distributed everywhere. And we take it out. Look at the bottle, because the bottle's kind of cool. So this, the story about this the bourbon is started by the group of Green Berets that went to Afghanistan after 9/11. And this is not them kind of being sponsored and figureheads for a bourbon company. This is them. They make it. They came back. That bottle is the shape of a canteen, and it fits in a canteen holder.
Okay, yeah.
And there's some really cool stories. If you can Google it or look up Horse Soldier Bourbon.
I will.
And but the bottle itself is formed like all bottles are formed in these little bottle forms that are made of steel, and this one is formed with steel from the World Trade Center.
Wow.
And so every bottle touches a piece of the fallen World Trade Center. And I'm lucky enough to be connected with them, and we're kind of back full circle with starting on an aircraft carrier and being a military cook, and then learning bourbon, and now I'm back home in Florida. And but I think this is one of my favorite ones. This is the straight.
I think I know what I'm having for dinner today.
Yes, that's what's up.
Chef, when we start wrapping up, I usually have a couple of questions that I like to ask.
Yep.
So the first one I'm going to ask you is if you have a kitchen salt that you use, like your all-purpose kitchen salt for everything.
Yes.
Which one do you use?
I think my pass, I was just talking with my chef about this the other day. My pass has plain Malden, smoked Malden, and black Malden. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the black is actually Malden, but it's a black crystal salt. I use all those for finishing, and then the kitchen is just only kosher.
Like diamond crystal.
Diamond crystal, yeah. Yes.
And do you have like a go-to finishing acid? Like, is it lemon? Is it vinegar? Is it something else?
Yeah. I am big into zest.
Yeah.
And so also on my pass, I have a bowl of citrus.
Okay.
And I have
just rasp it really quick.
Yes.
On food. Yeah.
And I have I always have an all-purpose vinaigrette that is just citrus and olive oil and salt and pepper, not emulsified. I just use that so everything gets a hint of flavor.
Yeah, a specific citrus or just any, whatever's good.
I vacillate, and usually I'll try to combine all three, like lemon, orange, and lime, because I like the real acidity of the lemon. I like the sweetness of the orange, and I like the liminess of the lime.
And do you have like a specific go-to olive oil that you use for finishing?
Monin, I like. And then the funny thing is I have my development chef, Ben, has a house in Greece, and he's got a little olive orchard, and he'll bring me back olive oil like once a year. And so
nice.
That's for the house. But then at work, yeah, I don't really have one particular one. I'm always into olive oil and finishing oils.
If you had advice to give to a young chef, a young cook that's just starting out in their career, and I'm asking this specifically because you've worked in so many different styles of kitchens.
Yep.
Where would you advise people to kind of start making their bones? If it was just a general person that says, I don't know where I'm going.
For me, this is like my legit answer, because I just tell people to go cook anywhere. Like, go cook in a restaurant, preferably not fast food. Not that there's anything wrong with fast food. And like, I could go down how many rabbit holes that you made me think of with being recruited by Taco Bell, or like, just, there is something to be said for all of the studies and efficiencies that fast food places have made. And I geeked out on that. I developed a commissary, and I do all kinds of labor studies, and it's that I could geek out on that as much as I could geek out on flavors. But just cook. Go somewhere where you actually have to use a pan, actually have to use a flat top, and burn yourself and cut yourself, and figure out if it's you. Like I always have my other saying is, the stove is the same whatever restaurant you go to. Like, the stove at the French Laundry is the same as the one at Outback Steakhouse. Like, maybe a little bit different BTUs and a fancier brand, but it does the same thing.
Yeah.
And Jacques, back to Jacques Pépin, they have a shirt. He's got a saying, and I have the shirt that says that we're all equals in the eyes of the stove. And so if you can, you can. If you can't, you can't.
Right. I love that. And if you had your Mount Rushmore of 4 chefs that should be on there, who are they?
That's a tough one. Well, obviously Ron Siegel, now that we've been talking about him. Jacques, Thomas, and there's so many. I'm just going to go Jose Andres.
There you go. Chef, where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media, if they want to eat your food, if they want to drink some whiskey? Where could they follow along?
So you follow me at on Instagram. I'm Hand That Feeds. My bakery is or the bakery that I'm partners with. Shout out Amanda. Butchertown Grocery Bakery online. And then the company that I'm working with now is Horse Soldier Bourbon and Urban Stillhouse. Urban Stillhouse in St. Pete, Florida, and one in Somerset, Kentucky, soon to be more.
Awesome. This was fun. Let's go get some Not a Damn Chance burger.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, that's the show. If you liked it, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. If you want more Chefs PSA, go to chefspsa.com. Get yourself some books, get yourself some merch, including Culinary Leadership Fundamentals and the Line Cook Survival Manual. If you want early access to episodes, you can get them on Spotify and Substack by becoming a paid member. The link is in the notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No small drink in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.